everybody, and welcome back to the 101st episode of the Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Alonso, as always, joined by Nicholas O'Brien. We are recording this on Memorial Day. Hopefully, you guys are listening to this on Memorial Day. If not, enjoy your hot dogs, hamburgers, fireworks, pools, even though it's freezing as shit outside. How are you doing?
Good. Happy Memorial Day, America Day, Barbecue Day, all that. I had my fair share of hamburgers and hot dogs yesterday, so I hit my quota for the week. But yes, hope everyone enjoys their Memorial Day. Be safe, be responsible, all that good
Yes.
stuff. But baseball,
Baseball.
good baseball.
Good
At
baseball.
least the past weekend. I went to the game on Saturday. It was fantastic, great experience. My throat is not feeling good right now. But I went to the Brett Beatty game. He went 3 for 3 for walk just for me. So I am in a very good mood.
I would not call that the Brett Beatty game, but we'll get into that.
It's one of his better games, but yes.
Yes, we will get into
we
that.
will talk about it.
Baseball season. Queens.
Queens, let's get to it.
Now entering Queens.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Queens, where the Mets finish up a series victory over the Dodgers after losing the series in Boston. Before we talk about that, as always, your Triboro MD injury report. We got some good news overall. Frankie Montas has started his rehab assignments. He pitched on, I believe, was Friday. Sounds like he's going to take like the entire month, about 30 days to fully ramp up. So we're probably not going to see him until earliest end of June. Sean Manaea is supposedly about 2 weeks behind Montas. So Manaea will start throwing live BP this week with a rehab assignment on the close horizon. So probably looking more mid-July for Manaea. Paul Blackburn will make his final rehab start this week, and then the Mets will decide what to do with him afterwards. I believe it was Tim Britton of The Athletic, read his article this morning, mentioned that the Mets won't technically need a sixth starter until next Monday in Los Angeles. So Paul Blackburn might be able to just slot right into that sixth spot during that week. Well, I forgot to delete this one, but I'll mention it. Brandon Nimmo didn't play the last two games against the Dodgers due to a stiff neck. He is in the lineup today, Monday, against the White Sox, so it looks like he's feeling better. And then just some roster moves to go over. After Friday's absolutely disgusting, terrible, long, useless game against the Dodgers, the Mets had to make some moves. Genesis Cabrera and Jose Azocar were DFA'd. Brandon Waddell, who was called up a few weeks ago against the Diamondbacks, he was recalled. And Jared Young was recalled. Signed this offseason over from the KBO. He's a guy I mentioned over the offseason. During our infield preview. If you didn't watch that, go ahead. I talk a little more about him there, but I'll touch on him right now. In 22 AAA games, he has a 371 on base, a 129 weighted runs created plus, a 12.4 walk percentage, and a 19.6 strikeout percentage. He hits the ball hard. He doesn't strike out. His walk percentage at 12.4 would rank in the top 50 of Major League Baseball. So it has started to already see some playing time. He started Saturday, he started Sunday, and he is starting again on Monday. So it's 3 games in a row after being recalled. And like I mentioned, he hits the ball hard in AAA, a 92.5 average exit velocity, 14.3 barrel percentage, and a 57.1 hard hit rate. So he doesn't strike out, takes his walks, hits the ball hard. I think he can absolutely be a positive. What's the word?
Contributor?
Just completely lost. Contributor. Thank you to this Mets team, and he also plays everywhere on the field. Quite literally everywhere except for shortstop, center field, and catcher. So he could play most infield spots, the corners in the outfield, but he has been DHing so far. But Jared Young is someone I'm pretty excited about to see what he got in the major leagues. He hit a ball almost 108 miles an hour on Sunday, so you're already starting to see some of that raw power there.
Drink.
Drink break. Boston series. There's really not much to talk about here. We'll touch on it just because it was a big storyline, but it's kind of been beaten to death at this point with Hustlegate. Juan Soto being called out for his lack of hustle. We saw the play. Was that the last game of the Subway Series? That
Yeah,
ground out to
8th
second
inning.
base? Yeah. That ground out to DJ LeMahieu. He kind of just dogged it on the way. And then he had what he thought was going to be a homer off the Green Monster. He really didn't hustle out of the box. Was held to a single. He probably would have been thrown out at second if he ran to second. He then stole second base right afterwards. So whatever. But I just saw you turn your head.
I'm not sure he would have gotten thrown out at second if he hustles it
It
all
would
the
have
way.
been close. It would have been very close.
But
It's bad optics.
I was
I'll
gonna say
give you
I
that.
think it may almost be better if he got thrown out at second, hustling all the way, than if he
I guess.
just that may sound so stupid. That's how
I get what
stupid it is, but I think it honestly would have been better if he got thrown out at second than if he just not run at all.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, he obviously didn't hustle out the box. It looked like he thought it was gone. I think I texted you this that day. With the way the ball was hit, the exit velocity, launch angle, majority of those balls or similarly batted balls are home runs. But this isn't in his defense. He should have absolutely hustled out of the box. But the wind was absolutely a factor in the ball kind of just dying and hitting off the wall. But you got to know the park. You got to know where you're playing. You got to know the situation. So
It's also
with
not.
that being said,
It's also not like
go
he's
ahead.
never played in Fenway before.
Right.
Last year with the Yankees, played 6 or 7, how many ever games they played at Fenway, and then you consider the other ones they played every here and there. So he's played games at Fenway before. He knows that it's notorious for having that wall, and yes, I don't. Bad.
I do think it was blown out of proportion. I think it was just bad timing.
It's the
After
timing.
the
It's
Subway
100% the
Series,
timing.
Yeah. After the Subway Series where he really didn't have a good series and the Mets lost.
If those
the
happened
ground out to
2 weeks
second,
apart from each other, it's not that big of a
no
deal.
one talked about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
back
then
to back
this
days,
happens.
was it, or was it a day in between?
Was
it the Monday or
I
the
want to
Tuesday
say there's a
game?
day between. I think it was Tuesday.
Okay, so a day or
Right.
very close.
In a 3-day span, at the
Yeah.
very least, this became such a big story. But again, I think it was just a timing thing. I don't think there is really a hustle issue with Soto. Are there some plays where he could probably run a little faster? Absolutely. But the other thing too is more often than not, you do see a lot of this with a lot of major leaguers. If it's what should be a routine ground out, they just
Especially not speed guys.
right. It's like you're not gonna beat it out.
Yeah. But
And plus,
in
he's
big
also stolen
spots,
like
you
7
gotta,
bases.
or like if it's a close, but
Yeah,
like
no,
that's
absolutely.
that was the thing with, because I will say, to defend him a little bit, or not defend him necessarily, but he did that with the Yankees as well.
Cut him some slack.
Yeah, kind of almost like he did that. That's always what he's done. It's not like a thing of he just started doing it. But
Right.
Juan Soto bad. Ha 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 ha.
Oh no, he has a 130 WRC plus. What are we gonna do?
Hopefully he can catch a ball.
He did last night. He made a good play that was probably a routine play for an average right fielder, but he made the
For
catch.
a
That's all
below
that
average
matters.
right fielder.
That's all that matters. But besides that, that was honestly like the biggest story of the series. But besides that, it was more of the same. Runners in scoring position was non-existent. They went 1 for 15 in the first 2 games. First 2 games they lost. Of course, in the third game, which they won, they beat Garrett Crochet because,
Baseball.
of course, baseball. McGill had a much better outing. It wasn't the next worst start so far, so it's progress. The biggest thing in this start, he struck out 10, but he still didn't finish 5 innings. The most Tyler McGill stat line you'll ever see. But the biggest thing this start was his fastball. Everything comes down to the fastball of Tyler McGill. In the past 3 starts leading up to this one, he threw his fastball 36% of the time. This start, he threw it 43.5% of the time. For McGill, it's all about establishing the fastball early so that he can use his changeup, he can use his slider, he can use his sinker. He has such a good fastball with decent velocity and good extension that it is, by Stuff Plus models, a very, very good pitch. I forgot the exact number because I just thought of it now, but he has one of the highest in-zone whiff rates on fastballs. So his fastball is good. He needs to establish it, and he needs to just pound the zone with it because guys just whiff on it. And when they whiff on the fastball, they're late on the fastball. That's when you can take advantage of them with your secondary pitches. So when it comes to McGill, the talent, like I've always said, is there. It's just about consistency. But this was absolutely a step in the right direction. Water break.
Water break. Tyler McGill actually having a good start in May. Is there something?
Is it even a good start? Less than 5 innings? I think I don't know the full stat line, but less than 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, probably allowed a run. I think he did allow a run or two.
For Tyler McGill, this is what Tariq Skubal did on Sunday.
Yeah, I guess.
In May.
Yeah, 4 2/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. He threw 85 pitches in less than 5 innings. So it's better. It's absolutely better.
Definitely better.
I'll give him that. It's better. That's all I'm looking for. But besides that, there's not much else to talk about in Boston. So let's go over to the Dodgers series. A big series win for the Mets. Huge series win for the Mets. The Dodgers obviously are always going to be on top of the National League. Nice little NLCS matchup. Coming off 2 straight series losses, not playing your best baseball for the past 2 weeks or so. And I hate to be that guy, but they were 1 hit away from sweeping. 1 hit. Not even a hit. 1 sac fly from sweeping the Dodgers. So let's talk about that first game for a moment.
Really quickly, I would say that if you lost because your strength wasn't good.
Huh?
In the sense that the reason why the Mets lost is because they couldn't hit with the runner in scoring position in the first game, right?
Yes.
If they were routinely good at hitting runners in scoring position, I would say then, yeah, you can make like a decent argument about that.
Yeah.
You kind of get what I mean? Where it's like they're just not good at all, so it's like they lost because of their weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, like, it's 1 hit.
Fair.
1 dribbler.
You could
1 sac fly.
You could say the same, though, about the Dodgers, who have the highest batting average for runners in scoring position in baseball.
Absolutely. And the Mets shut them down.
I mean, credit to the pitching staff, yeah. 100%.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. The entire pitching staff, because they had to use everybody. Every single pitcher.
We are not exaggerating when we say this.
Hey, I'm pulling it up. I have to.
Dude, the picture that they showed, the graphic was so funny.
I think it was 16 pitchers between the 2 teams, something like that.
That sounds low. But for those that don't know, the graphic that I'm talking about is they showed on Apple TV the graphic of all the Mets bullpen. Every single guy had a white line through them because they've been used.
So let's start off by saying this game entered a rain delay in the middle of the 3rd inning. It lasted like an hour 40. So Griffin Canning's start was cut short. Clayton Kershaw's start was cut short. So after Canning came out, it was Kranick for an inning and a third. Buteau, who has absolutely been a problem so far. He's completely out of the circle of trust. I'm not sure what to do with Buteau, but he pitched 2/3 of an inning. Jose Castillo pitched an inning 2/3. Ryan Stanek pitched 2/3. Genesis Cabrera pitched 2 innings. Edwin Diaz pitched an inning. Reed Garrett pitched 2 innings. Huascar Brazaban, who pitched 2 innings the day before, had to pitch an inning. It was just rough. They went 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Dodgers went 6 for 17. But it was just especially a late night game when I was working the next morning, and these guys just couldn't get a hit to save their life. They had 4 straight innings from the 9th to the 12th with the winning run on third base. They did not score those 4 innings. Luis Angel Acuna has been really struggling the past 2 weeks. He had 2 chances, and he couldn't come through both times. The second one is where I really got mad, because the pitcher on the Dodgers had no idea where his pitches are going. At one point, it was a 3-0 count. He took the first strike. Fantastic. If it's bases loaded, and you can walk it off with a walk, and the pitcher doesn't really know where his pitches are going, why are you not taking until 2 strikes? Because I hate to also say this, but umpire wasn't fantastic. So you could also have a call go your way. Why are you swinging 3-1 when you're struggling to hit to begin with? When you can't lift the ball to begin with? When you don't hit the ball hard to begin with? That was mind-boggling. That pissed me off. What pissed me off more, though, was Luis Torrens, who had to play first base this game. I believe this was the 12th inning. The Dodgers bring in a 5-man infield. So center field is completely barren. Luis Torrens hits an inning-ending double play when you could have won with a pop-up to center field. And this is what I mean when you're 1 hit away from winning that game and sweeping the series. You lift 1 ball with runners in scoring position, and there's a good chance you win that game. To be fair, they had a fantastic comeback in the 9th inning, scored 3 off Tanner Scott, Jeff McNeil for a huge triple, yada yada. It was great. This game just pissed me off so much, especially considering the fact that it ended at like 1 in the morning, and I had to wake up in about 5 hours for work.
Especially considering the fact that I got roped into it too.
Because you had to stay up and do the graphic.
No, that
So
was,
it was just
the next
a
morning
very
was not fun.
frustrating game. Yes, absolutely. I would, don't tell anyone. I was nodding off a little.
Think about
hitting them with a couple.
Think about how mad you would be right now if the Mets didn't win the series.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
You know what I
'Cause
mean?
Again, be 1 hit away.
Just
Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous.
who
It was
gave up
just
the
a
lot? It was
ridiculous.
Brosabon, right?
Braziban.
Yeah, like
Yeah, he
say what you
kinda,
want about him, but dude, it's the 13th fucking inning.
and he pitched, I think, 2 innings the day before.
Yeah,
Like
so it's like
Mendoza after the game said, like, yeah, we were trying to stay away from Braziban, but we
say
had
what
to
you
use
want
him.
about him giving up the winning hit, dude. That's unacceptable from the offense. Like, yeah, he gave up
Yeah,
the winning
absolutely.
hit, but at the same time, like, he just should not have been in there.
You had all the chances in the world, and now we're gonna relive them because we're just talking about
Yeah.
it. So with Tyrone Taylor on first base, was this the second out? Yes. Francisco Alvarez flies out for the second out. Brett Beatty then singles. Tyler third base with 2 outs. Acuna strikes out. Never sees a strike. Did not see a strike the entire at bat. He strikes out. Bottom of the 10th. Acuna starts on second base. Marte's hit. Lindor strikes out. Marte's hit by pitch. Soto grounds out. Acuna is on third base. Pete Alonso lines out to end the inning. 11th inning. Was it first base? First pitch. Jeff McNeil, little lazy kind of pop to second base, out. Intentionally walk Tyrone Taylor. Francisco Alvarez strikes out. Brett Beatty walks. Dodgers bring in a new pitcher. This is when Acuna with a 3-1 count, swings and grounds out. Bottom of the 12th, Acuna starts on second base. Lindor is intentionally walked, first and second for no outs. Starling Marte, sacrifice bunt, gets the runners over to second and third. The Dodgers then intentionally walk Juan Soto. That is the Luis Torrens double play. It's just, they were just so close. And they had some fantastic pitching. Edwin Diaz, Reed Garrett, everybody except for Jose Buto pitched fantastic that game. And it was just such a shame that the offense couldn't get one measly hit with runners in score position, because that wins them the game. But that's enough about that. I can go on and on about that series, about that game. Game 2, like I mentioned at the top, I was there. Coming off that absolutely disheartening, gut-wrenching loss, David Peterson turns in what's quite possibly the best outing of his career. 7 2/3 innings against the Dodgers, allowing just 2 runs. And both runs came, I think it was the second inning, on little dribbler up the middle, a ball that hit the batter in the batter's box, but was called a fair ball. And that was all the Dodgers got. But David Peterson struck out Ohtani 3 times. Again, 7 2/3 innings after the bullpen was used for the entire game the night before. And just to give David Peterson his flowers, 10 starts this season, 58 innings pitched, a 2.79 ERA, a 3.4 FIP. Since he returned from his hip surgery last year on May 29th, so nearly a year ago, in a 31 start sample, David Peterson has pitched 179 innings with a 2.87 ERA, a 3.58 FIP for nearly 3 WAR. And that's not even counting what he did in the postseason, going to the bullpen and being pretty good at that as well. I believe he's a free agent after next year.
I will check that for you.
But when do we start talking about extending David Peterson? Like, this guy is starting to become a pitcher you'd be comfortable with starting a playoff game. He's a solid 3, a good 4, with some just excellent outings. You know, he's not gonna blow you away with his stuff, but he can locate, and that's something that doesn't deteriorate as much going forward. It's velocity usually, but when you're able to command your pitches, and sometimes it does get away from him. It ages well, and David Peterson is just,
Especially for
again,
lefties.
right, yeah, a crafty lefty. Like, he still throws decently. Like, he tops out around like 94, but he's just become such a solid starting pitcher that eventually I think it makes a ton of sense to discuss an extension with him.
He has this year one more year, and the first year of like his new contract, wherever that may be, he'll be 31. So, barring any significant injury to his arm, you see those type of crafty lefties getting a good amount of money, especially if they're pitching to a sub-3 ERA.
Right.
Sub-3
And
ERA, words, Jesus.
I don't think he's like a true sub-3 ERA.
Yeah.
There's going to be some regression when
Like
it comes to
I think he's like a 3.5 guy, 3.4.
Absolutely, which is
Very
extremely valuable.
yes.
And he's become a guy that is almost like a workhorse. He pitches deep. He gets into the 6th inning, like, it feels like every time. And again, this game, after a night where you had to use your entire bullpen, going almost 8 full innings, under 100 pitches, I'm pretty sure. It cannot be said enough how valuable David Peterson has become to this team. And it is so vindicating after I was defending him in 2023. It's so cool to see him blossom into this just excellent starting pitcher. And like you said, he's going to be 31 whenever at the start of that new contract, whenever that happens. So if you give him come the offseason, like a 5-year deal, something like that, to keep him around at like a decent annual average, like sign me up. I think David Peterson is such a just good starting pitcher. Again, he's not going to blow you away, but he pitches deep and he gives you innings. That's so valuable in the middle of that rotation. So just shout out David Peterson. He's been fantastic this year, and just what an absolute outing on Saturday for him.
Yeah. As a member of the David Peterson fan club, it's always great to see it, especially against a team like the Dodgers. And yeah.
Yes, especially when you strike out Ohtani 3 times.
But all you're gonna see is the
on the
highlight.
national broadcast.
All you're gonna see is the highlight of the last game where he had a home run the second pitch of the game.
And of course his live bullpen, because you gotta see that all the time. I get it. I do. It's
how bad was
big
it?
injury.
For all 3 games, how bad was the
Apple TV?
They also whatever. Apple TV was also horrendous. Who is the secondary guy, the analyst?
I believe that's Dontrell Willis, if I'm not wrong.
Dude, some of the stuff I heard him say was like, what?
I don't think him and Wayne Randazzo, who does the play-by-play, I just don't think they're a good mix. Like they don't really Wayne is a good secondary guy. He did Mets radio with Howie Rose for a while before moving on to the Angels. I liked listening to him. He was good. He was good with Howie. And he's good on the Angels. There's something about it just doesn't work. Like I want to like it because I do like Wayne, but something about the broadcast just doesn't do it for me.
I feel like there was just so much stuff that they just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing, like with the bobble. Like I'll be honest, I didn't know that.
I forgot about that.
I didn't know that.
Thank you.
But
I did not know that rule either.
They had no idea about that. The whole like obstruction play. Which it makes sense if you're in a guy's view so he can't see the ball. It makes sense why it'd be called obstruction. And like you could even see Muncy like kind of like stepped a little. It was more a gamesmanship thing. I'm not saying Muncy's it's a gamesmanship thing. Stepping, and they're like, "Oh my god, what do you mean?" Like, and it's like, what? Like, I think it's pretty clear and obvious why it was called obstruction. I've never thought about it that way. I've never seen it called that way, but it makes sense when you think obstructing the view. Like that's especially on a play that is so timing based, where you need to see the play.
Right. But. Yeah, the bobble in center field with Taylor, did not know that was the rule.
Makes a lot of sense though when you think about it.
It does. Absolutely makes sense. Was frustrating in real time, but I understand it. The obstruction rule I knew about, but that's just something that never gets called.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the hit by pitches, when by rule you technically need to make an attempt to move out of the way.
Yeah.
If you don't attempt to get out of the way, it's technically not a hit by pitch. But again, that is never called. Obstruction rule, again, it's just never called. I'm sure Max Muncy has done that his entire career, and this is the first time he's gotten called for it. So it was just it was a weird game. You know, just the rain delay, 13 innings, which was the first 13-inning game with, I believe, the Ghost Runner, the longest game the Mets have played in like over a decade. It was just a weird, bizarre game. So it was nice to see David Peterson kind of take things and settle down things on Saturday. It was just such a treat to watch. And also Juan Soto and Brett Beatty, amazing games. Beatty 3 for 3 with a walk, I think 2 doubles, 2 RBI. Juan Soto with a huge, I think it was 2 out, almost bases clearing double. But for some reason they sent Unk when Unk can't run. And yeah, just a good game overall. And then lastly, game 3, Kodai Senga, absolute dog. You can tell he's still kind of working through some things, and yet he leads the league in ERA or close to it. So whenever he does figure it out, watch out, because Kodai Senga is not on the top of his game, and he still is just doing great. So Pete Alonso broke his career-long 2-week home run drought in the first inning. Thank you. And then Max Kranick, 2 innings under, I think like under 20 pitches, around 20 pitches. Absolute dog. So it's just a big series win for the Mets, especially considering Friday's game where I wanted to rip my hair out. But some overall notes. Brett Baty this is starting to feel real for the first time in a while. Because last year, he started off hot, but under the hood, it wasn't there. It wasn't hitting the ball hard. A lot of blue on Baseball Savant. But this year, this just feels real. And Brett Baty should be the third baseman going forward. Until further notice. Because he's going to struggle. It's going to happen. Pitchers are going to adjust. But since he got recalled about 2 weeks ago, he's hitting 326 for 356 on base and nearly 700 slugging percentage. He is third on the team in expected weighted on base average at 411. He's struck out only 20% of the time and has a 90.5 average exit velocity. He is lifting the ball. He's hitting the ball with authority. He's going opposite field, which was his kind of rookie approach, I guess, if you want to call it, in the minor leagues. He went oppo a lot. He's just letting the game come to him instead of trying to attack the game. And the attitude is just completely different. Like, all jokes aside, it's kind of like a no more Mr. Nice Guy. Like, he's just stone cold, like, in post-game interviews. Like, in the past, like, he's smiled and he's kind of joked, but, like, it's just, it's kind of like it's business. So the attitude's different. The at-bats are just different. Again, he's hitting the ball. He's hitting the piss out of the ball. And he plays. Mark Vientos makes Brett Baty look like a gold glover. And Brett Baty is, at the very least, a good third baseman. I love Mark Vientos. This isn't anything against him. But if he's not hitting, he doesn't provide you anything on defense. He's a negative asset on defense, and he doesn't provide you anything with base running.
Who would you say is worse defensively, him or Soto?
Vientos by a mile.
And that kind of, I knew that would be the answer, but just for all we get on about Soto being bad defensively, that's just to put into perspective how if you talked how much about Soto's not hitting, then like he's giving you no value.
Yeah,
if
what are you doing?
Vientos is not hitting, he is giving you nothing.
He's giving you nothing. Because at least Soto takes his walks. He obviously the eye never goes away.
And now he's Ricky Henderson, and he's fast as hell. But
yeah, Vientos does not. He is the first percentile in outs above average at -7. Juan Soto, probably not too far off, but still, he's at -5.
Now, do you think
yes, both bad.
Vientos, it could be something like with Thairo Estrada, where he got shot, and I forget if it was the leg or the ass, and he didn't know the bullet was still there for like 7 months, so he played a couple months of baseball with it. So what if that happened to Vientos, and that's why he's so slow?
Sure, we'll go with that.
I don't know why I thought about that. I was just trying to think of like, because we say concrete like Vientos, I was like, maybe he got like concrete shoes that he never took off from the mob hit, and I was like,
It's the spray-on shoes, but they're just like 25 pounds.
Yeah.
But to put it more in perspective on how bad Vientos has been defensively, last year, in the entire year of 2024, he was at -7 outs above average. He's at -7 now, on May 26th. After making an error last night on Sunday night, just went to charge a ball, completely whiffed. Didn't touch the glove, didn't touch him, completely whiffed. And again, I don't want to rag on the guy because I do like him. We saw what he did last year. He can be a positive contributor to this team. It's just not going to be on defense. So at the very least, Brett Baty, if he's not hitting, and I don't think he's going to hit as much as he's hitting right now, there is going to he's going to come back down to earth a little. But if he's an above average hitter, he has to play third base. The defense is just a difference maker. You feel a lot more comfortable. You have a lot of ground ball guys on this team. Clay Holmes, obviously. David Peterson's becoming a huge ground ball guy. Griffin Canning gets ground balls at an above average rate. You need good defense. And overall, this Mets defense has not been great. Obviously, Pete is not the most agile first baseman. You've had Vientos for a majority of the year. Francisco Lindor is having a very off year defensively. I believe he's at -1 outs above average currently. So you need at least a positive contributor there somewhere. Lindor is much better than what he's been. So having Beatty there is just going to make all the difference, again, when you have this many ground ball guys. But seeing Beatty just have this much success and make it seem sustainable is just so nice to see for him, for a guy who's really on his last legs with this team. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on kind of like the Vientos Beatty.
I feel like it's just at that time, especially with what Unk's doing right now in DH. I feel like it's just.
Yeah, Unks might still have it. He's not playing horribly. He's getting some hits. He's working some at bats. He's not gonna slug. I think the power's gone. I thought he maybe had a little more in there. I don't think so. But if he can get his singles, if he can get on base, make things happen, sure. But yeah. And now with Jared Young on the team, there's not going to be a lot of playing time for Vientos at DH if Young hits, which I think he can. So it's going to be really interesting the more this Mets team plays, seeing how this is going to shake out. With that being said, there's another position battle that we kind of have to talk about, and it's behind the plate with Luis Torrens and Francisco Alvarez. Alvarez has basically been here for about a month. He's hitting .232 for .321 on base, a .304 slugging percentage.
That's the issue.
.625 OPS. We said it when the injury first happened. When it comes for the hamate bone, it has a tendency to zap power. We've seen it before. He hit a home run in like his second game back, but he hasn't hit a home run since. Forget about home runs. He barely has any extra base hits. I think he has about 3. I'll look that up right now.
We talked extensively about the hamate bone and how all the different guys, I can't remember off the top of my head, I know Andrew Benintendi is like the big guy, where like his power just went in the tubes the second he broke his hamate bone. And you don't want to say it, but like you think about how many times Francisco Alvarez has had an injury to his left hand. You know what I mean? Like
he's got beat up.
2 or 3?
He really takes the beating.
2 or 3 serious injuries on that left hand?
Yeah, it's the ligament in the thumb, the hamate bone, and there's probably one other that we're missing.
I know he got hit by the pitch and which ended up not being serious, but definitely doesn't help.
Absolutely.
Especially with how much he's using that left hand too. It's not like he's not using it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sucks because this is a guy that we thought could be kind of the catalyst, and he's 23, so this is not us writing him off at all.
Yeah, he's not cooked by any means.
Yeah, this just might not be his season. I hope he turns it around, but with the injury that he had, that can very well be the case. And all of a sudden,
I was just gonna say
he's not good at framing now.
I was just gonna say the thing about you saying it may not be a season. Take out the last 2 games of the postseason. You could say the same thing about last year.
Yeah, 710 OPS last year.
In the postseason numbers, you take out
11 home runs.
That last game or two, horrific. And this is coming from one of the biggest. I think I was higher on Francisco Alvarez than you were when he was coming out.
Probably.
So, in the framing is the issue, because I'll get into a different catcher in the Bronx. At least that catcher is still absolutely elite at framing. If he wasn't, it would be a big time for a discussion. But
absolutely. So far, Francisco Alvarez is 7th percentile in framing with -2, Last year, he was at +7, which was 88th percentile. But this year, he got better at throwing runners out. So there's that, at least. But
Is his pop
then we
time
talk.
dramatically different?
Let's see. Pop time 1.819. If anything, it got better.
Well, because
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. Like, do you think that could kind of be an approach thing, where
It might
he's
be.
emphasizing more pop time throwing guys out rather than framing? Because like the whole thing about like blocks versus framing, one knee, how that
Yeah.
I could also see there being
He
a
is a
world.
better blocker this year as well. He was quite literally one of the worst, and he's now average.
So it could be a thing in that where he's focusing a lot more on blocking, throwing guys out, and that kind of took away from the
Right.
framing.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be it. Then we move on to Luis Torrens, who overall on this year has been fantastic. He's hitting 267 with a 340 on base, a 422 slug, a 762 OPS. And the defense is essentially a wash now. And he's providing more on offense. Torrens is a slightly worse blocker. He catches runners at basically the same rate. He is a average framer, and he has really good pop time. So if he can catch a runner, and we've seen him, he's been throwing runners out left and right. Torrens is arguably a better defensive catcher than Francisco Alvarez. The thing with Alvarez was that he would at least provide you more offensive potential, at least. But now he's not providing much offense at all. And Luis Torrens has a lot better underlying data than Francisco Alvarez. Average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit rate, all elite numbers, while Alvarez is struggling. And I'm struggling between, is he good because he's just good, or is he good because he's playing sparingly? You know, it was kind of like the Jose Iglesias thing from last year. Was he this good because he's just good now, or is it just the sparing playing time just works for guys?
Especially for a catcher too. Having all like
Right,
just all the build up, all the grind, all wear and
right.
tear, and
And I think we got a little bit of an answer on how this is going to go forward. Luis Torrens caught the last 2 games of the Dodgers series. He caught Saturday, he caught Sunday. He's not in the lineup on Monday because he caught last night, and now it's an afternoon game, so Alvarez is in there. At the very least, I think this should be a 50-50 split.
hmm.
At the very least. And the last thing I'll say on this is this is not everything, but this is also not nothing. With Francisco Alvarez behind the plate in 164 innings, the team has a 3.2 ERA, a 3.29 ERA, with a 671 OPS against. In 200 innings pitched with Torrens behind the plate, the team has a 2.53 ERA, with a 616 OPS against.
That's
Again,
significant. I think that's significant.
catcher ERA is not perfect. This is not nothing. This is nearly over a run less. And shout out my mom for pointing it out, because I looked at, and again, this doesn't mean anything. Tyler McGill had his worst 3 starts when Alvarez caught him. I forget who caught that last game, but I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Comfortability, better pitch calling, better game planning. I don't know, but these stats are too jarring to not point it out.
No, that is very. I've been the biggest advocate of all time that defensive catchers, there is something to that where if you don't hit but you bring down the team ERA, you are doing your job that way. It's the
Mhm.
same as having Andrelton Simmons, let's say, how he was so insane
Right.
defensively, you didn't really care about what he did with the bat, even to a better extent with catchers. So if Francisco Alvarez isn't as good as another guy defensively behind the plate, and Luis Torrens is also better offensively, it sucks, but
Yeah.
who's to say it also wouldn't help Alvarez if he got a little more time off?
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So I'll leave it at this. The Mets lineup, at its best right now, Luis Torrens behind the plate, Jeff McNeil at second base, Brett Beatty at third base. Because Luis Angel Acuna has also been really struggling for the past 2 weeks. And he's the guy that does not hit the ball hard at all. He relies on his speed, and he's not going to beat out every single dribbler. But you're going to say something.
I was going to say, do you think we're getting to Ronnie time?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think when it comes to Ronnie Mauricio, coming off an ACL it's such a tough injury. And yes, he is playing well right now.
But Ronald Acuna.
I'll pull up his stats right now.
I have them right now.
Oh, you do?
Because I was looking
What's
at
he
that.
hitting
So
right
he
now?
has five. So he's played in 3 different levels. He has 5 games single A, 5 games double A, 5 games triple A. In the 2 games or the 10 games in single A and double A, horrendous numbers. He had a 321 OPS in single A, 402 in double A. He has a 1515 OPS in 5 games triple A.
Right.
How sustainable is that? Not sustainable at all. It's also a very heavy run environment. You could also say getting comfortable in the knee. You could say this, you could say that. But the biggest issue is the on base. How he's never. That's the biggest knock on him. That he was a glorified Javi Baez to a much lower extent. Which right now you would love to have Javi Baez, but yeah, I think people saying that are just way too nearsighted.
Yeah,
and they don't realize how this guy needs time just to get his feet under him coming back from an ACL injury. And baseball is obviously not the same, but in football, that is a huge thing where you need like a year to actually get comfortable with your leg, especially for a speed, athletic guy. 100%.
Yeah. And look, I think he will contribute to this team at some point. It's not right now.
He's a trade deadline acquisition.
Maybe, like all jokes aside, maybe. He can come up in July. Maybe he comes up in August, something like that. But no, he needs more time to, again, get his feet under him, get comfortable. And again, I will pound the table. His cup of coffee in the majors in the last month of 2023 was not good. He had a 79 weighted runs created plus. His on base was below 300. He struck out almost 30% of the time. Yes, he hits the shit out of the ball, but when he hits the ball. So, look, I do like Ronnie Mauricio. I do think he will be up at one point. I just don't think it's going to be soon. But with that being said, we'll finish up by looking ahead for the next week.
Oh my god, sorry, just something really funny. He almost had as many strikeouts as total bases. 31 strikeouts, 35 total bases.
See, it's not, you can't succeed like that. But looking ahead, we got a 3-game set against the White Sox coming into Citi Field. Adrian Houser's on the White Sox, apparently. He's pitching on Monday.
Yeah,
Shane Smith and Sean Burke are both solid pitchers. This White Sox rotation is the least of their problems. It's actually decent. Again, Shane Smith and Sean Burke are good major league pitchers.
It's actually adequate.
You got Tyler McGill and Griffin Canning going against them. But besides the rotation, this White Sox team is not good. This should be a series you win. And yet, they're somehow not the worst team in baseball. Because the worst team in baseball comes to Citi Field at the end of the week with the Rockies. Got David Peterson versus Kyle Freeland. Kodai Senga versus Antonio Senzatella. And then Holmes versus Palmquist, who I believe is a rookie. I'm not sure. The Rockies are bad. The Rockies can't pitch. The Rockies can't hit. The Rockies are bad. The White Sox have adequate pitching, at least.
The Rockies don't make sense. Like, they're that bad.
The Yankees just saw them, so just saw them for the past weekend.
They're bad.
Yes, the Rockies are bad. The White Sox can maybe at least put up a fight.
You know the GOAT, Mickey Moniak, is on the Rockies?
Yes.
I did not know that.
He's having, like, a decent...
Yeah, he had a home run off Weaver.
Yeah. But, with that being said, these are 2 series you should win. I expect them to do so. especially after you just took the series from the Dodgers. Just keep it rolling. The schedule is a lot softer this next 2 weeks, besides playing the Dodgers again. Take advantage. That's really it. The lineup has moved a lot. There's a lot of changes. Juan Soto hitting third, Pete Alonso back in the cleanup spot. Maybe it sticks, maybe it works, but just take advantage of the schedule. That's all I ask. With that being said, Justin, if you have nothing else, take us away.
Bronx!
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Bronx, where the Yankees just went 5-1 in the week, and you could make an argument they maybe should have gone 6-0, but we don't care. That's fine. Of course, before anything, your injury update brought to you by the Triboro MD. Giancarlo Stanton will take live batting practice over the next 2 weeks, and then we'll do a rehab assignment shortly after. Kind of surprised by that. I'm kind of surprised that they are going the rehab route, rehab game route, because they, in past years when he's injured, he hasn't done rehab games, unless they're planning on putting him in the field, which...
No.
I
The
mean,
outfield's already crowded. I don't understand.
so was the DH spot, though. You already have 3 guys playing DH, 4 guys playing DH regularly.
Yeah. I think also the offense is clicking. Like, there's
Yeah,
no
I think
issue.
that's
You
a
know what
lot
I
of
mean?
it,
Like,
too.
why, if you can prolong that decision, because every time we've talked about it, we've talked about how much it's going to be a tough decision and how you're going to spread the playing time and everything. If you can push that position down the road, why not?
Do you know what happened on Saturday?
What happened on Saturday?
Ben Rice came in the 9th inning to catch.
Hmm.
We'll get into that soon, but harder.
Interesting.
Jazz Chisholm, he hit against like the velocity machine from the 23rd to 25th, so that was Friday through Sunday. He will face live pitching and then go on a rehab assignment sometime this week. So what do you think that is, like 2 weeks till he's back?
It was oblique, right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. 2 weeks probably sounds right.
I believe it was April 29th. Or April 29th when it happened.
Not
So
March.
call it a month. And they said 4 to 6 weeks.
That sounds about right, because when you first start out, you're going to play like a game every other day, and you're only going to play like 6 innings. And then you're going to play a full game, and then you're going to play back-to-back full games. So 2 weeks probably sounds about right.
2 weeks,
Call
maybe a
it,
little longer.
Mid-June.
Yeah, that's kind of where I see it too. And then Marcus Stroman is scheduled to throw a bullpen tomorrow. All right, what do we think happens in the bullpen tomorrow? Do you think it's going to be rain that prevents it? Do you think it's going to be... Something's going to happen that... Oh, no, Marcus...
California crap.
What'd you say?
I was like, oh, no, they're in California.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was he in New York? Is he with the team?
I think he's in New York.
Oh, okay. I think it's supposed to rain.
Something's going to happen, and he's not going to be able to do that bullpen, because...
I think his knee is... His knee doesn't feel good.
Whatever, but... Fernando Cruz was placed on the 15-day IL, retroactive to May 19th. They did say it's going to be the minimum. That's what, like, it really feels like it could have been one of those things where he was only out for, like, 5 or 6 days. But at that point, it's more valuable to have the roster spot and make sure he is healthy, especially with how important he has been to this bullpen. Because MRI came back clean. He's going to throw off a mound. I think they said either, like, today, tomorrow, next, whatever, within the next couple days. Really wish you could have had him for the Dodgers series, because they are playing the Dodgers later this week, but I'm okay. I promise. I'm definitely not about to die, but we're good. Getting into the actual games themselves. Game 1 of the Ranger series was Will Warren, Patrick Corbin. 5-2 Yankees win. Will Warren was incredible. Yet again, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. He almost got out of the inning too. He got the first 2 outs of the inning, then back-to-back hits. So it's like he almost got that got 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, but still didn't allow a run. Yankees won that game. They hit Patrick Corbin, which last year would have been like, yeah, no shit.
No
This
shit.
year, it's like, oh, good job.
He's actually decent.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Just don't look at the chart of his ERAs under different presidencies. Getting into game 2 was Ryan Yarbrough versus Jacob deGrom. Ryan Yarbrough let up less runs in this game than Jacob deGrom. I think we really know who the GOAT is. But
Sure.
all seriousness, deGrom was absolutely pumping. I was texting you before the game, and you're like, yeah, he sits probably like 95, 96. He was doing like 98 in the first and second inning. I'm like, you lied to me. You lied to me.
I did not.
You lied. Nick, he was throwing like 137.
I'll tell you why.
Why? Why? Why are you going to tell me?
I'll tell you why in 2 seconds.
No.
2 seconds.
As you get that, Ryan Yarbrough, he went 5 innings, only 1 run, 8 strikeouts for Ryan Yarbrough. I know, say what you want about the Rangers offense, but still, 8 strikeouts to Ryan Yarbrough in 5 innings. And the only run came off a Jake Berger solo shot. Just makes sense. Kills lefties. Like, that's just going to be what it is. Do you have it?
I thought it was a lot more drastic than it was, but he is slowly creeping up the average velocity on his fastball. His first start was 96.7, 96.7, 96.3, 97, 96.7, 97.5, 97, 97.5, 98, 97.7.
I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't like that.
I think it's better than what he has been doing. Obviously in the past, where he sits, basically 99, 100. So I think it's a step in the right direction. His arm angle is also down.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not sure how that affects anything for that. But look, as long as he kind of sticks in that 97 range, hopefully he'll be okay. But we're not going to know until it happens. But he's still Jacob deGrom. One of the best pitchers in baseball. He just obviously has not, been healthy the last couple of years.
I'm just saying, everyone that is listening is very lucky that I muted my mic for that. You are not lucky because I did not mute my mic for that. I said to, I had a hockaloogie. Let's say it that way, but
Jacob deGrom is very good still. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But the story of this game was, first off, Aaron Judge had an RBI single and high leverage to tie the game. I'm just saying. Then Jason Dominguez in the bottom of the 9th inning hits a walk-off absolute moon shot. I don't even know off of who, but I know it was a good pitcher because obviously the closer. Say what you want about the location of the pitch. It's a rookie in a clutch situation that hit a ball 420 feet.
It was a bomb.
He is the only player in MLB history that within 1 month in 1 calendar month, to have a 3 home run game, a home run from both sides of the plate in a game, a grand slam, and a walk-off home run.
Pretty
and even
good.
then, I would argue that he's also, that's not even the biggest story. The biggest story, he's looked so much more competent as a right-handed hitter. He had 3 hits.
That's good.
Say we want the Rockies, whatever, but he had 3 hits in the game in Colorado. I believe it was the second game. They were all off a lefty. Mm-hmm. So say we want Colorado, whatever, he still's got to do it. You know what I mean? He still has to do it, and seeing him at least do it and just look a lot more competent as a righty and a lot more trustworthy as a righty, I really like. And you even saw in the group chat where I mentioned Oswald Peraza, and I just said, like, he's so bad recently. And our friend said, like, so is Dominguez. I went off on that. Pissed me off so much because he meant defensively, but he didn't say defensively.
Which is fair.
Because which is definitely fair. And I started, like, going into the numbers and all this. And let me actually get my phone out right now because I didn't write down the numbers. Let me find this group chat.
He had the receipts ready.
I had the receipts. 122 WRC plus on the year, 157 versus righties. and he's been a lot better against lefties. So I think this is like the best case scenario, the realistic best case scenario for Jason Dominguez's rookie year. I think it's kind of the best way to put it. Because obviously you could say like, oh, the best case scenario is he has like a 180 WRC plus. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So the defense, yeah, it's been up and down, up and down. Getting a little more comfortable. Kind of like one of those things like seeing more and more is just the inconsistent, which I would much rather a guy be inconsistent as a rookie than not show flashes and be consistent. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's also understandable to expect rookies to have the highs and the lows. Like, that's just what's going to happen. And yes, say what you want that he had some cup of coffees in the past, but this is his first full long look. Even last year, they were playing him sparingly for whatever reason. Like, he's a starter now. Like, this is his first time, so pitchers are really going to be able to see him. And again, because of the cup of coffees in the past, pitchers know his approach, so now they can kind of adjust to him from prior seasons. So it's expected for him to kind of being up and down, but I think you're starting to see the type of player that he can be this month.
And it's also a thing of, I forget who it was, but it's one of the guys on the Yankees broadcast that said it like about a week ago. I want to say it was Paul O'Neill that said at Yankee Stadium that left field is center field. And there is something to that, where left field is one of the harder left fields in baseball to play, which is how big it is compared to other teams. So there's something to that too. It's not like he's playing an easy defensive position. You can make an argument it's the second most important defensive position at Yankee Stadium after the catcher. Yeah. So say what you will there. But then getting into Game 3, I did not expect them to win this game whatsoever. It's a getaway game. Nathan Eovaldi's on the mound. It's a 12:35 start. They win that. Carlos Rodon was incredible. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. Only having 4 base runners over 6 innings. Love that, Carlos. Have you seen his splits with and without a beard?
I saw it. I don't remember the numbers, but I did see that.
He has a 2.88 ERA with a beard when he's a Yankee.
Yeah.
He may just not have power when he doesn't have a beard. So that is, at the end of the day, is just it. But we are jorbing it. Jorbe Vivas hit the solo shot in the 5th inning. That was the only run in the game. And yeah, just a great game. I was listening to it on the radio while going down the shore, which it should have been an hour 15 car ride that took 3 hours because rain, traffic, But anyways, that's enough about my life. Just a good series. They had timely hitting. You beat the Rangers are a team that I think they're very happy to play them now, because I don't see how they could be this bad offensively for the entire year. They have way too much talent to be this bad offensively. So I don't know how you feel about that, but especially with that pitching, dude, I feel like this is one of those teams that call it September, October, you are scared to play.
Yeah, if this team makes the playoffs, I mean, Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi 1-2. Jack Leiter's kind of coming to his own a little.
Dude, Molly and Corbin are pitching incredible. Doesn't Molly have a sub-2 ERA?
Yeah, I don't think he's not going to be that forever.
Yeah, obviously, but I'm just saying
Molly
so far.
has a 1.8.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they've, injuries and just underperformance. Like, I just looked at the Fangraphs page for the first time in season. Like, why is Sam Haggerty listed as their leadoff hitter?
No, Nick, you look at just looking at the stats every time the guys came up when they were hitting. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. I don't get it, but yeah, I think they're a lot better than what they've shown in the past and what their record shows now.
Yeah. Then that was the Ranger series. Got to give them credit there. Then going to Colorado they lost the first game. The Rockies won that one 3-2. It was Clark Schmidt versus Tanner Gordon. I may sound like I'm coping here, but I forget. You've never been to Colorado, right?
Nah.
I don't. For those that have been in Colorado, they know exactly what I'm talking about. If you come from a place, call it New York, that has very low elevation, let's call it just next to nothing elevation wise, and then you go to a place like Colorado. Every day, I've gone to Colorado so many times because my family's from there. Every time I go there, the first day that I wake up, I always am sick. That's just a thing. It's a very common thing called altitude sickness. You just feel so sluggish. You feel so sick. That's kind of how the offense was. They just looked like they were sluggish. They just looked like they were sick. And a lot of the guys on this team, outside of, say there's 3 guys on this team that regularly played in Colorado?
Right.
And even then, like, when was the last time that Bellinger regularly played in Colorado? When was the last time Goldschmidt? Like, he played like a couple games a year or whatever, just because playing on the Cubs. Same thing with what's his face? Why can I not? Oh my God, Goldschmidt. Yeah. And then DJ LeMay, who hasn't played in 6 years in Colorado.
Right.
So again, but it's also the goddamn Rockies.
A little bit of cope makes sense.
It's also the Rockies. If they were flat in the other games, I wouldn't even mention this.
Yeah.
But and they've also
Fair enough.
This is also their second West Coast trip in the last week and a half.
Yeah.
So MLB schedulers, but reason why they lost the game: Clark Schmidt is in the 5th inning, pop-up strikeout, single. Tim Hill comes in, RBI double to give the Rockies the lead. He's just not been good this year. The issue with him is he's been giving up a lot of loud contact. The whole allure about Tim Hill is soft contact. Not really been doing that. And I don't really... That's what I was kind of a little surprised that Brent Hedrick wasn't called up when... oh my God, sorry.
Cough it up, baby.
I'm okay. When... Oh my God, when Cruz went on the IL, I was a little surprised about that. But Tim Hill's just not been performing well. I still think he has it in him, but he's just not getting that soft contact that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, just a quick look at his baseball savant. Last year, his expected weight on base on contact was sub 300, which is elite.
Incredible.
This year, it's 328, which is more but like average. So last year, he just got weaker contact overall, and this year he's not getting that. And that's kind of the issue with guys like this, is just sometimes you're just not going to get the contact you need. But I mean, a lot of the underlying stuff still looks good. It very, very similar to last year. The one difference is he didn't get barreled last year. No one, 100th percentile in barrel rate. This year he's average.
Which you can't live as that. With the type of pitcher he is, you can't live like that.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be better than what he has been, but you can't expect last year.
Yeah. And just a very interesting note that came out of this game, Meredith Marokvis, for those that don't know, the Yankees like big sideline reporter, she mentioned how Max Fried is kind of telling and teaching guys how to be effective while throwing softer.
Mm-hmm.
So
because he's never been a velocity guy.
No, who? Clark or Fried? Fried, no. No, because I only thought you were saying Clark because it came in reference when they were talking about Clark. Yeah. But because you can almost feel like guys have taken a couple miles an hour off their stuff. You could see that with a lot of the guys in the bullpen. You could see that with Will Bourne, with Clark Schmidt. Obviously, Luis Heel would have been a perfect example to see, but just haven't seen that yet. Carlos Rodon, he hasn't really been throwing like that 96, 97, 98 miles an hour. So that could be part of it. And honestly, I really like that because I would much rather these guys, especially a guy like Will Bourne, if you teach Will Bourne to be a pitcher and not a thrower in his first year, that's incredible for him.
I think the other issue is with Warren, at least, is command and control. If you can take a tick off, but you can spot your fastball a lot better, again, very similar to what I said about Tyler McGill, that sets up everything else for you, especially his sweeper and curveball.
And another thing too with I'll jump around a bit and go into game 3 because that's a Will Warren start just because it kind of makes a lot more sense. One of the things I was worried about is how his stuff would be affected by the altitude. Because him and Clark are guys that they have a lot of like just horizontal, vertical. They have a lot of movement. They really depend on their movement because they're not throwing that hard. For those that don't know, in Colorado, the ball just doesn't break as much because the air is thinner. So that my dad, I didn't know the science behind it. Then my dad was like, yeah, well, wouldn't the science just be this? I'm like, you know what? That sounds
That
right.
makes sense. Yeah.
Because the air, I knew it had to do with like the altitude, air being thinner. It's because there's not as much friction on the ball. So therefore, the friction is what kind of causes the break with the seams. So there's not much of that. Ball doesn't move as much. For two guys that really need to rely on that, I was really curious. Will Warren, the first inning, I was like, ah, shit, here we go. 23 pitches, let up 2 runs, did not look good whatsoever. Second inning, 8 pitches. Bounced back right away. He ended up going 4 innings at 57 pitches, but there was a 2-hour rain delay, and I really think he probably would have gone at least 6 innings. He may have gone, with the pace he was pitching at, I think he may have gone 7 innings.
Yeah, he kind
Just
of
with how
locked in
efficient he was, and that's awesome to see from a young hitter, Jesus Christ, a young pitcher,
Sure.
just because of the fact that your stuff is not going to be that good because of the altitude. And say we want Rockies, whatever, yeah, but you could just look at his kind of body language where he just looked a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm going 4 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, still had 7 strikeouts, so the strikeout number's still there for him, even though it was only 4 innings. And even then, all things considered, 4 base runners through 4 innings, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was really love that. The other thing, too, is, and Jack Flaherty mentioned, obviously, Jack Flaherty being kind of the known backup catcher, kind of journeyman catcher, whatever, got like... Jack Flaherty is almost like Kyle Higashioka if Kyle Higashioka didn't play 10 years with the Yankees. If that makes any sense. Kind of that journeyman backup catcher that would start in a couple of years, whatever. But he also mentioned with JC Escarra, that's got to be huge for him too, kind of calming down the young pitcher. JC Escarra also had 3 hits and 2 RBIs, and he kind of won them that game on Sunday. So, great to see that overall from Escarra, because I will get into the catching situation later, because it's becoming JC Escarra is making it a lot more complicated. Let me just say that. But really quickly, just touch on Game 5. 13-1 win for the Yankees, because you knew there was going to be at least one of them.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm a little shocked it was only 13. And that sounds so greedy.
Mm-hmm.
But every starter got a hit and an RBI. 3 guys had 2 hits, or I think it was 3 or 4 guys had 3 hits in that game, and along with 2 RBIs. Fried threw 7 in the 3rd innings pitched, 1 earned run, but he was only 83 pitches. If this game was closer, if it was, call it 3-1, he probably goes a complete game. But I also don't blame them for doing it, because I'm going to mention it again. Another thing with altitude, recovery. That's a huge thing. You don't have as much time. You need longer to recover. So 83 pitches to someone that's not used to it is probably 100 to someone that is used to it. That's not perfect math whatsoever, but kind of just, for someone that's been in altitude as a normal person and not a professional athlete, that shit sucks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I did mention earlier in the show, because I'm talking about catchers, Ben Rice did end up catching in the 9th inning, because Austin Wells played a day game after a night game, which was very interesting to see. The reason why, Austin Wells and Max Fried have been phenomenal together. They're trying to keep that duo together like as much as possible. Same thing with Escarra and Rodon, which kind of like we said, like, oh, like when Stanton comes back, send down Escarra, make Rice catcher. Escarra's made that a lot more complicated just because of how much Carlos Rodon loves him. And you look at Austin Wells overall, because I do want to touch at him. He has a 99 WRC plus on the year, so he's a tick below average, but recently he's been really bad. I didn't get the numbers, but he did have a good series in Colorado, but how much of that is him? How much of that is just Colorado pitching? Being the worst baseball team of all time. That's why I'm trying to not like put as much stock into it. I didn't even mention that Aaron Judge had 2 home runs in the series. that just
Who cares about that guy?
if you would, I feel like he would have had to hit like 4 home runs for us to like mention it, for like to not be something
Wow, yeah.
expected. Yeah.
Forget it.
Then again, Aaron Judge is going through like a pretty big slump. He's only at 399 on the year now. He
Washed.
so goofy. But yeah, the thing that you look at Austin Wells, kind of the big thing that I noticed from last year and this year is that the chase rates and the walk rates have either gone down a lot or gone up. Chase rates gone up, walk rates gone down. In 2024, he had a chase rate of 25.4 or 25.5, walk rate of 11.4. This year, he had a chase rate. His chase rate of 31%, 7.7 walk percentage. Walking about 4% less, chasing about 6% more. That's really the big thing I've noticed because he's still hitting the ball hard, 71st percentile, barreling 67th percentile, hard hit 77th, bat speed 74th. Still doing all that stuff good. I think it really is just kind of like an approach and a plate discipline type of thing. That's all that's coming down to. Because let me look at, because there's a couple other numbers, like his expected weight on base is down a good bit, but I think it really just does boil down to his approach. Because we talked a lot when he was coming up about how he's a guy that he works the plate, works long counts, and he uses that to his favor to then use his power later in the game. Yada, yada, yada. And it's a little concerning, the offense, but then again, it's also catcher, where last year, I believe the league average WRC plus was 85. So 14% better than what would have been league average last year. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Defense is still there. 89th percentile in fielding run value, 98th percentile in framing. So I'm not really going to make like a cow about Austin Wells. I will say the blocking has gotten worse. He was at 4 fielding run value last year. Now he's at -1. We'll also say small sample size, all things considered. So I'm not really going to make a big deal about that too. Let me see. We'll revisit that in like July to see where the blocking is.
Yeah.
But you could also even make an argument that he has more guys with like looping curveballs, I guess you could say. Like Max Fried's a big example. Carlos Rodon's starting to go a lot more into like the more off speed, kind of more stuff down. So gotta see where that goes, but
there's a lot more finesse.
Yeah. Then kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about, or last main guy that I want to talk about that is getting shit on for absolutely no reason, and it pisses me off so much. Do you know what Anthony Volpe's WRC plus in the last 26 games are in 111 plate appearances? I just want to say, people always say 100 plate appearances kind of where you know when you know where you're at in a season. 111 plate appearances, very a solid sample size. What do you think his WRC plus is?
126.
136.
Close.
Very good. That is very good. A lot of the things with Anthony Volpe that we've seen in the past would be like 2 weeks suck, 1 week incredible, a month suck, 1 week incredible. That. This is a month worth of sample size. This is valuable. I know he had a couple of bad games in the Subway Series, especially like that. Those 1 or 2 at bats were like really bad in game 2.
Yeah, but score position.
You look at it, he has in that span 286 batting average, 351 on base, 490 slugging, 481 OPS, 136 WRC plus. He has 14 extra base hits in that span, 10 doubles, 3 triples, 2 home runs, 91.4 average exit velocity. So he really is hitting the ball pretty hard. And for a shortstop, when you think about like his type of body type, 91.4 is pretty
he's
good.
Small.
Yeah, pretty good average exit velocity. And then he has a 362 weighted on base. So it's not even like because like the BABIP is a little high, and that was kind of like the thing with him where like, oh, he's a BABIP merchant. He's hitting the ball hard, and he's having better, all things considered, better at bats, take out 2 games in the Subway Series.
Yeah.
So,
as a whole for the season, he has a 115. Like, this is a very good shortstop. And I'm a guy who's kind of ragged on him as well. And the other thing, too, is because I was just looking at his splits. He's crushing lefties.
Yes, he is demolishing lefties. That's one of the reasons why people just look
valuable.
people will be like, oh, why is he hitting fifth? Because they don't have any other right-handed bats really, and he is demolishing lefties.
He currently is hitting 327 against lefties with a 165 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah. What is it against righties?
94, which is fine.
Take under league average. That's probably about league average for a shortstop, if I had to say, honestly.
Yeah.
But
no, he's looked a lot better in the years past, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, the defense is a little finicky, but kind of like what I said with Austin Wells, where I'm not gonna really rag on guys that have had excellent track records in the past over 2 months of a sample size. I'll give them like 3-4 months, and then I'll kind of revisit. And that may sound like me talking out of my ass, because like Vientos, me talking about like the defense is concerning, but Vientos is also.
But he was also horrible last year.
Couldn't even hold like. I don't even know what you could say he couldn't even hold. Like he couldn't even hold a feather to what Volpe and Wells have been defensively in their past.
Yeah.
So.
Vientos has never been a positive fielder, so.
You just prayed that he'd be a slight negative.
Yeah. -3, not -7 in 2 months.
But
regardless.
Yeah, another thing too, like when you think about this lineup, the homegrown kids are just going off. Because let's take like a regular lineup where you have, let's call it Trent Grisham leading off. Okay, No, you know what? We're going to do the one when Trent Grisham is not playing. So that way there's more homegrown players. So Ben Rice leading off, homegrown. Aaron Judge leading off, homegrown, which is also, it's weird to think that Aaron Judge is a homegrown player because it was so long ago that when he came up.
Yeah.
Like that sounds weird, but he just came up so long ago that it's like, yeah, he debuted with the team.
He's been here.
Yeah, he's been here for a while. Like he was in the minor leagues. Like he went through all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then you would have Cody Bellinger, not homegrown. Paul Goldschmidt, not homegrown. Anthony Volpe or Jason Dominguez, both homegrown. Austin Wells, homegrown. Oswald Peraza, homegrown. Jorge Vivas / TJ LeMahieu, one of them is homegrown. And you also did have Oswaldo Cabrera for a while, who was homegrown. So, there's a lot of... Because everyone likes to say the Yankees just buy their talent, and...
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They don't anymore. In the past. I am not making an argument about that. But in the past, definitely. But right now, no.
No.
And the last thing, because we were like debating going over the hot takes, I'm just going to mention 2 right now. Because they were my 2 hottest takes. Will Warren winning AL Rookie of the Year was my extreme take. He is currently 3rd in WAR for a rookie in the American League. Doesn't seem that crazy now. Ben Rice, most home runs by a lefty in the American League. He is currently tied for 4th with 10. But there's also a 3-way tie for first with 12, so he's only 2 off first place. He has the 2nd highest WRC plus amongst all those guys, with the only one being Rafael Devers to have more. The highest ISO, meaning he has the highest isolated power, the lowest batting average of balls in play, the highest discrepancy between on base and expected weighted on base between those guys. So he is still getting unlucky.
Good spot.
Yeah.
He's in a good spot.
I did want to talk about Ben because I feel like Ben Rice hasn't been producing as much of late, but he is still hitting the ball like 137 miles an hour. It's just going right to a guy's glove. So, because we talked a lot last year, or not last year, in the offseason about like his BABIP was like 160 or something like horrendous.
It's insanely low.
Yeah, and that seems like it's still happening when you compare him to like the other lefties kind of in that group. And even then, like I mentioned like the discrepancy between the on base and expected weighted on base. His expected weighted on base is only 3 points lower than the highest on the list too. So it's not like just a thing like, oh yeah, the discrepancy, but it's also, no, it still is very high. And he's not really playing that much. Big reason why is because they just have such a logjam. Trent Grisham, it's kind of the same boat as Ben Rice, where weirdly enough, the underlying data has been getting better as Grisham's numbers have been getting worse. So baseball, seriously, because obviously, like, he had a 200 WRC plus. That was bound to come down. That was just gonna come down. That was not. If that was sustainable, I don't even know, dude. If that was sustainable,
best trade of all time.
that is the best duo of all time.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous. But no, the fact that it's May 26th and Ben Rice has a 144 WRC plus, that's awesome. That just objectively is awesome.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that is with him cooling down as of late too.
Right.
So, yeah, that's all I had for that.
Good stuff.
Wanted to mention really quickly that something no one's talking about. You look at the Yankees' last 6 series, they won all 6 of them. Padres, Athletics, Mariners, Mets, Rangers, Rockies. Say what you want about the Rangers and the say what you want about the Rockies and the Athletics. I think the Athletics are better than the record shows. I truly do believe that. The Rockies, I'm not even gonna whatever.
Trash.
I'm not even gonna mention that. But Padres, very good team. Mariners, I don't think they're leading the AL West anymore, but at the time they were. You came back in a really big comeback game in both games against the Padres and Mariners. People forget that. Mets, you had another comeback game in there. Rangers have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. When you just look at like depth, all that. So they've beaten good teams over this stretch. And that was kind of the knock, like, oh, they haven't beat good teams. Oh, they haven't really had those close games that they won. Yeah. They did that.
You don't want close games.
What is that?
Like, you don't want close games.
You don't, no. You want to see them win close games, see that they could do it for the playoffs. That's like the argument.
Sure, but
no, I wanna win 13-1.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to win 5-0. I don't want to 1-0.
I don't want to shit my pants the entire time, but
exactly.
But then looking at a look ahead for the Yankees, they got 3 games set against the Angels, and then they have an off day on Thursday. Then they got 3 games against Dodgers. For the first 3 games against the Angels, you got Ryan Yarbrough, Carlos Rodon, and Clark Schmidt, and he will be going up against Angels. Jack Kochowicz.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try.
You're Jack. Looking at it now?
Yep.
Yeah, no. Tyler Anderson and Yusei Kikuchi. Tyler Anderson and Kikuchi both have like pretty solid years. Kikuchi absolutely destroys the Yankees, so I am not looking forward to that game whatsoever. Then for the other 3 starters you got for the Dodgers, you got Max Fried, Will Warren, Ryan Yarbrough. Absolutely huge to have Will Warren in that game against the Dodgers. And then if I go to the Dodgers right now, Tony Gonsolin, Landon Knack. Jesus Christ. Do you know who's going up against Ryan Yarbrough?
You don't get to... You get to face Yamamoto.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Ryan Yarbrough on Sunday Night Baseball in LA. God.
Cinema. Must watch.
No.
Must watch.
No. Yeah, for Dodgers fans.
I will say, to Yarbrough's strength, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it feels like the Dodgers struggle against lefties.
I'll look that up right now.
Because obviously David Peterson had a fantastic start. Jose Castillo, who had an 11 ERA for the Diamondbacks, held his own for almost 2 innings against the Dodgers. It feels like this is a good matchup for Yarbrough because you have Ohtani, who, yes, is an amazing hitter, but still lefty-lefty. Freeman, lefty-lefty. Max Muncy's not going to be in the lineup. Tommy Edman is worse against lefties than he is righties. And then who am I missing? Will Smith does demolish lefties. But, yeah, like, I think they're worse against lefties.
I'm trying to find this out, and it's being so annoying. Where is... Oh, my God. I feel like such an idiot. Jesus Christ. Why can I not get this?
The Dodgers currently rank... Wow, okay. 3rd against lefties for 123 WRC+. All right, let me see what there is versus righties. It'd be really funny if they're worse against righties.
It'd be so funny.
They're basically the same, so never mind.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. It just seems like it. But regardless, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I still think it can be a good matchup.
Definitely, Ryan Yarbrough has exceeded those expectations. Matt Blake found his new pet project of the year.
This could also be the regression game. So bear.
Shut up. Yeah, you see a possible trade deadline acquisition, Taylor Ward, in this game.
Sure.
Just toss him at third base and pray on everything you know.
When was the last time he played the infield?
I don't know. He has though, right? He played third base, right?
Yes.
Like
at one
very
point in time.
sparingly. Because there was a report. I wasn't even gonna mention this, but I figure I might as well. Because the source, Bob Nightingale, said that the Yankees are looking for a heavy impact right-handed bat in the infield, and they are also looking for a starting pitcher at the deadline. Way too early. Trade deadline. Bob Nightingale. But since I mentioned Taylor Ward, figured
Might as
good
well.
transition, whatever.
He has not played third base since
Ever.
2022
Okay.
for 2 innings.
That 2 more innings than I have. So,
So there's that.
but yeah, I mean, there's also something to note. Oswald Peraza has been absolute dog doo doo. Jesus Rodriguez, my fault, has hit very well in AAA. Something to note, I don't think it happens yet because Peraza doesn't have any options, but he's just so bad watching him play. So I'm not gonna really rag on him because we knew this is what he was. We knew he wasn't a good hitter, and yeah.
Or you're watching it.
What'd you say?
And now you're watching.
Yeah, now you're watching it. So all things considered, yeah, you lost one game against the Rockies, still went 5-1. You beat the Rangers, who I still think are very underperforming right now, and you swept them and you hit their. Would you say they're 3 best starters or the first, second, and fourth best starters?
I think Leiter's better than Corbin.
You do?
But so it's two out of the 3.
Okay, whatever. So that's that. Yeah.
If you got nothing else, I'll take us.
Got nothing else.
All right. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Let us know you're enjoying the show. Follow all of our social media at Triboro Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We post lineups, we post final scores every single day. So thank you again for listening, watching, and we'll see you next week with another episode of the Triboro Podcast. All right. I gotta pee.